Okay, welcome to chapter 2. Sorry about the end of the last one where I was trying to share and it didn't quite work. So let's come in now to uh, chapter 2. We're going to talk about business ethics today. All right, so chapter 2, ethics in the law. What we're going to talk about is how unethical behavior in our world affects businesses, distinguishing among ethics, morals, and values, discussing relationships between laws and ethics, discovering different types of ethical reasoning, and discuss ways businesses can ensure ethics. Right? So, many of you are here because you are business majors. Um, Unethical behavior is illegal for the most part. It revolves around things like questionable accounting practices, fraud, insider trading, and attempts to influence politicians and the media. In a response to this, Congress enacted the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which placed greater top management accountability to monitor more closely financial dealings. What was happening is companies were being accused of unethical behavior, and the CEOs and the people that ran the company were like, I didn't know this was happening. It wasn't my fault. I had no idea. This was like, if somebody 16 rungs down the ladder from me. And so Congress said, you know what? If you're going to be the CEO of a company, you better understand how it works, and you better monitor the financial dealings and the corporate disclosures and the places where you can get in trouble, and you better know what's going on. And so now it actually holds CEOs, and some of them have actually been arrested for this type of behavior. An example was, you remember Martha Stewart in 2004? She was investigated for selling several thousand shares of ImClone stock after receiving and illegally acting on insider information. She was found guilty, but she wasn't found guilty of insider trading. She was found guilty of lying to federal investigators, and she received 10-month sentence, $30,000 fine, and 19 months of supervised probation. So you have to be careful. One of the things that they get people on more than they even get them on these unethical business practices is lying to a federal investigator. If you get caught lying to a federal investigator, you will end up serving prison time. Back in the early 2000s, sort of in response to everything that was going on and why they, made the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, is the fall of Enron. So Enron was one of the most widely reported unethical violations of all time. It bankrupted the company and destroyed Arthur Andersen, who was one of the largest audit firms in the world. In 2001, the Securities and Exchange Commission, an administrative agency, remember we talked about that last time, investigated the accounting practices after several years of questions that were raised by stockholders and shareholders and analysts. The resulting disclosures showed that the company was causing reduced investor confidence, and the company's credit rating went down. The SEC announced it would pursue charges against Lay, the former CEO, Jeff Skilling, the CFO. Against Lay, Jeff Skilling was the CEO and the CFO. The charges related to manipulating accounting rules and making the enormous losses and liabilities of the company. So they basically were money laundering, doing bank fraud, insider trading, and conspiracy. They lost thousands and thousands and millions of dollars to people's 401k plans, and they bankrupted the company. Jeffrey Skilling was convicted on all counts, and he was sentenced to 24 years in prison. Okay, so don't go under the assumption that if you get charged with a federal crime, you're not going away, or if you get charged with a business crime, you're not going away. You're going away for a long time. Lay was convicted on 6 counts and faced up to 45 years in prison, but he died in 2006, 3 months after his sentencing happened. And this resulted in really the attempt to improve corporate accountability. Ethics in a global marketplace, right? So group and individuals are influenced by region, religion, cultural traditions. So professionals face different standing and conduct in different countries. So it's important to know about the culture and the subculture that you may be facing when you're dealing with a global marketplace and the impact of ethics, right? So what's the difference between ethics, morals, and values? So your ethics are your belief about what's right and wrong. Morals are standards and principles society has adopted as a guide for acceptable behavior of individuals within the society. So morals are like a society placed belief, and the values are beliefs or standards considered worthwhile, which establish your ethics and a society's morals. So your morals and your ethics are based on values. Your ethics are personal. Your morals are society based. Groups and individuals' values are influenced, like we said, by religion and by subcultures. Sorry, that was the wrong direction. So there's two different approaches to ethic reasoning. There's the duty-based reasoning, where ethical reasoning is based on the consequences of your action, and outcome-based reasoning, where ethical reasoning is based upon creating the greater good for the most people. So, organizations are concerned with the legal consequences, obviously, of their unethical behavior. So, in response to that, you'll find that businesses have developed codes of conduct and corporate responsibility policies. So, corporate responsibility policies, what was happening before is corporations were solely only concerned with the bottom line, the dollar, right? How much money could they make for their shareholders? How much money could they make for their company? It was all about profit. And then there was a lot of pressure being put on corporations to kind of expand their social responsibility, that they had to be concerned about the impact that it was having on their community. Were they polluting the water? Were they paying people way too little? So corporations realized that in order for them to have favor with their employees and favor with the public, they really needed to expand their social responsibility into environmental issues, social issues, community issues, and workplace issues. So corporations would take actions to promote those issues. The other area where corporations started taking more responsibility was by code of ethics, where they established these codes or credo or whatever they want to call that people have to follow. And if you don't follow that, you're going to get fired. And you're going to have to, basically leave the company. A list of topics that are usually covered in ethical codes are honesty, adherence to the law, product safety and quality, workplace health and safety, avoiding conflicts of interest, and it goes on and on and on. So these are all areas of ethical issues for businesses. Education issues. Institutions also increase the need to examine ethics by adding internal policies, training courses, workshops, and programs. There's fairness in hiring, employment, promotion, multinational business, or ethical issues arising from technology, economic justice. These are all things that education institutions worked for. Now, you may not see them as a student, but there's a lot of this in the background. I can tell you as a professor here, there is an extensive amount of training courses that we have to take dealing with a lot of these issues. Government also has a responsibility to protect its consumers, the environment, and influence behavior that is to promote ethical behavior. And so what the government does is it enacts laws and regulations to ensure and encourage ethical behavior. An example of another place where ethical behavior can be monitored is a trade organization or a professional organization. So the Direct Marketing Association has regulations that it sets itself for telephone marketing, sweepstakes, fundraising, stuff like that. The legal profession, we have our own code of ethics that we have to comply with. So does the medical code of medical association. And so all of these areas have ethical codes that you can risk, if you're licensed, actually losing your license if you don't follow the ethical code. Sometimes when people see an unethical practice, they will report it. That person is known as a whistleblower. If you report it as a whistleblower to a government agency, the SEC or somebody else, and it is found that there is unethical behavior, you can actually be compensated a percentage of the fine that gets imposed. And there are lawyers who will represent people that are considered whistleblowers. The SEC, in order to enhance its reputation, like I just said, established a program to reward the whistleblowers. Businesses should basically be conducted in a way that avoids harm to consumers and the environment. Your chief executive officer or your board may decide to end ethical practices if they reduce profits or adversely affect the firm. The firms of high ethics will maintain practices that enhance the firm's practices. Government regulation might ensure compliance with ethical standards, but sometimes enforcement can be costly and slow. So they sometimes rely on individuals and organizations and watchdog groups to encourage these ethical practices that they have a harder time enforcing. All right, so that's it. Ethics is pretty much a short pause in a short topic here, but it's an important topic, right? Because everything that you do involves an ethical consideration in your career, and so you have to be careful to monitor it. Make sure that you do the homework that is due. Remember, homeworks are due by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So make sure that you are doing the homework that is going to be due for the week that's coming up. And I will be getting out the videos for the next segments as well.